Hi everyone, welcome to my session. I'm super excited to be here to talk to you guys about what we have done for our customer health and how we moved beyond CSM sentiment. Like you said, my name is Rachel Sakurai. I am a Senior Business Operations Analyst at Workfront. I work in our Customer Experience department. So I do all of CX data and analytics with a primary focus on customer success, and I'm also our Totango admin. So save your questions, I've got all the answers. Kidding. Okay, so here's the agenda of what this session is going to look like. I'll give you a little overview of Workfront, what we do, what our business looked like, and then I'll go over our customer health calculation. So I'll tell you where we started, our journey, and where we are today. And with that comes product usage, which is the emphasis of what this session is going to cover, is product usage, or of what we call internally BDF metrics. And then I will talk about how we operationalize those metrics, so what it looks like in our systems, and we'll go through an example of how we actually use that in our day-to-day business, give some advice, and then we'll have some time at the end for questions. So with that, let's get started. So who here knows what Workfront is or has heard of Workfront? One. Great. So Workfront is, you can read our description right there, we're a modern work platform that combines work, collaboration, and digital content in a smart, easy-to-use format. So we're essentially a project management software. We serve over 3,000 customers. We're evaluated at $280 million, located in Lehi, Utah. We have about 1,200 employees and about 200 within customer experience. So that's a little bit about us. Our 4 core values are do great work, finish strong, obsess over customers, and win together. As I'm sure you can imagine in customer experience, our primary one is obsess over customers, and we do just that. Our commander's intent is that the single most important thing we can do is to create wildly successful customers that realize the full value of their investment. And that really is the driving force for everything we do, regardless of your role. So in customer experience, for me, that looks like I obsess over customer data to make sure that they can be the most successful with our tool. For a customer success team, it means that they then take that data and work with the customers to improve it, right? And make sure that they're using the tool in a way that's gonna really benefit them in the long run. So Workfront Customer Success, we have about 35 CSMs right now, and they are global and they support our largest customers. So not all of our customers have a CSM. Like I said, we have about 3,000 customers, only about 500 of them have a CSM. So that is our coverage model. And I want to take you through a little timeline of what Workfront Customer Success has looked like. So back in Q4 2017, here's some of the problems that we were having. Our health was calculated 100% based on CSM sentiment, which is not a bad metric. It's important to look at that to say, you're talking to the customer, tell me how this customer is feeling on a red, yellow, green scale, right? We also didn't have consistent tracking of customer engagement. So we didn't know if our customers were having EBRs or going on site or having calls. We didn't really track that, right? And we were living in what I like to call spreadsheet hell. Now I'm an analyst, I love spreadsheets, right? But it was spreadsheet hell. We tracked all of our health there and it was not good. So we purchased Totango, and then in Q1 2018, we implemented. So we had a pretty quick turnaround in implementation, but that allowed us to calculate our health based on CSM sentiment and customer engagement. So we were saying, rolling in how many of them were having those EBRs or going on site, et cetera. And then we celebrated the death of our health spreadsheet by getting a cake made of the spreadsheet. So this is a great day, we got a cake. This is what the spreadsheet looked like. I just sent a picture to the bakery and they printed it out. It was really fun. It was a fun celebration. And I didn't have to update the spreadsheet anymore, so I was excited. Then in Q2 2018, we pulled in our product usage data. So what I've been saying is BDF metrics. So this allowed us to really elevate our customer health, because on top of just looking at CSM engagements, we were looking at how are they actually using the product, and we were able to combine it together. So we're still in this stage right here. We've just added and tweaked things along the way since then. But I'll show you what our health looks like. So like I said, in Q4 2017, our health was 100% CSM sentiment. Now, this is what our health calculation looks like. So we went from 1 calculation to 6 different areas to go into health. So first we look at sponsor. We want to know who the Workfront sponsor is at the company and make sure that we have a good relationship with them. Next, we look at renewal date, and this one really only comes into play if a customer is past renewal and they haven't renewed. So if they pass their renewal date, we convert it to red because obvious reasons they should have renewed, right? Then we look at engagement. So we want all of our customers to be having an executive business review, a periodic business review, an on-site meeting, or a cadence call every 30 days. So one of those every 30 days to be healthy. If it's between 30 and 45 days, we'll convert it to yellow, and then post 45 days is red in that one area. We don't expect all of those activities to happen every 30 days, right? That's too much, just one of them. We do still have CSM sentiment in here, so what this looks like is just an attribute. On the account page that the CSM can edit at any point in time, they have to have this field filled out for every single one of their customers, but they get to go and choose, is this customer from my feeling, are they red, yellow, or green? So it's just a field that they get to choose. Much like the sponsor, we want to know who the Workfront champion is of the customer. So we have this field to make sure that we know who it is and that we have a good relationship with them. And then we look at the BDF score. So this one is just 1/6 of the pie, but within BDF, we have 4 different calculations. So we're going to spend some time looking into this. This is our product usage section. So BDF is an acronym. It stands for breadth, depth, and frequency. So let's dig into each of them. So breadth is the measure of how many users are actually using your product. Depth is what are they doing when they get in there. So we're looking at how many people are and what are they doing. And then frequency is how often. So who, what, when, right? We want to know the full spectrum of what's going on when they get in the tool. So let's dig into each of these. Breadth, like I said, is the measure of how many users are using your product. So why this matters is because it provides an indication of adoption. So you want to make sure that if your user, if your customer purchased 100 licenses, how many of those licenses are actually being used, right? You want to make sure that they're using it. And this does allow for turnover within your customer base. Because a lot of times you can have a really awesome admin, you can have one person that you as a CSM engage with, and they're like, yeah, we love the tool, everything's great, and then that person leaves. And you know that that person was using the tool, but what about the rest of the users, right? If you don't have visibility to see if the rest of the users love the tool, when that one person leaves, a lot of times your product leaves too, right? If you don't have that good. So if it absorbs that turnover, because if many people are using it, if it doesn't hurt as bad if one person leaves. And then it allows for growth. So our sales team really look at breadth because it's an easier conversation when it comes time for renewal, that they can say, hey, you're using the product a lot. You have a lot of your users that are using it. How can we grow? How can we scale this to make sure that you get more value for your whole company rather than just one department or whatever, how many licenses you have right now? So our calculation looks at the number of purchased licenses that have logged in the last 30 days. So we're just saying, when we rolled this out, we had a big conversation whether it should be purchased licenses or assigned licenses. But we decided with purchase because in the end game with health, we're trying to determine whether we think they're going to renew and grow, right? And if you're not looking at the ones that they've purchased, you can't necessarily say, will they grow at this rate or will they renew, because you wouldn't have visibility. So it was really important for us to look at that purchase license. And we want to do the last 30 days because you don't want to look at just yesterday, your numbers would be all over the place. We then assign a health just to breadth. So on top of all of our other health calculations, there's a health right here just for breadth. So you can see a healthy customer in terms of breadth is between 60 and 100% of users logged in. So for example, if we have a customer that has purchased 100 users and 73 of them have logged in the last 30 days, they would be healthy. If only 53 of them had logged in, they would be average just in breadth. So we assigned that. We chose 60% because when we were looking at this, that was our company average. We have a big variety of customers that use our tool for a variety of different reasons and cadence of why they get in there. And so we chose 60% because that's what our trend had been. Again, we just had to draw the line in the sand. We had to start somewhere, and then you get smarter as you go. We then look at depth, which is the measure of how much of your product is being used. So why this matters is that it shows the value of your different product areas. If you guys are like us, our tool is very, very complex, and there's a lot of different things that you can do with it. So you can get in there and you could go over in this area, and I could have tons of success over here, and then a different customer uses this complete other area. So this allows us to see where are they using the tool and where would they get the most value from. It allows for more strategic conversations with your CSMs to have with the customers, because then they can say, oh, I see that you're not using this area, or your users really love this one part of the tool. Let's talk about why. Let's talk about how you use it. And then it also helps our product team, right? Because then when they're looking to make an enhancement to the product, they can go look at our users and say, I know that company A, B, and C are really heavy users of this one area. So then I can go talk to them and say, what if I enhanced it like this? What if we tweaked it like that? And it just allows for those more strategic conversations across the company. And then it goes a level deeper than breadth. So again, kind of back to my point, if you have one really heavy user that's saying everything's good, then they're logging in, but you want to make sure that all of the users are doing stuff in there. For us, we chose 7 core Workfront features. So like I said, we have a complex tool and we could have picked a lot more than that, but we worked with our product team to make sure that we are saying, out of all of the things that you can do when you log into our product, let's narrow it down to say, when are people going to get their most value, right? Going back to our commander's intent, creating the wildly successful customers that realize their full value. So we wanted to say, what were those features that's going to do that? And we identified those. And then we assign a health just for depth. So here, we're only looking at 10% of the users that are completing the number of the features. Reason for that is why we chose that kind of twisted segmenting is because we have a variety of users that get in there. We have project managers that their primary function is to get in there and create projects and assign resources. Then we have workers who get in there and their primary function is just to complete tasks. They just get in there. And then we have people in there that create proofs, and there's different functions, so that's why we chose that, so that we can capture it all as a whole. Okay, so then we have frequency. And this measures how often, of all of those users that are logging in, how often are they logging in? This one is important because it measures how ingrained your product is, and it's super customizable to what your product looks like. If you have a product that people should be getting in every single day, then you can measure that. If it's not one of those products, if it's one that if they get in once a week or once a month, that's what they're really going to get the most value. You can customize that and say, my frequency, if it's successful if a customer gets in once a month. If it's in the store, right, they come shopping, yeah, I want them in once a month, that would be super successful, and you can determine that. It doesn't have to be every minute of every day. And then it gives understanding to usage style. So for us, this one was very important for us because we, like I said, have a broad range of customers. For example, we have an agricultural company. They grow plants. So they have one project that they manage in Workfront, and they grow one plant for an entire year. So they get in, they log in once a week, log the update, plant's looking sad, whatever it is, right? Assign a task, whatever's happening with this plant that they're growing. On the other hand, we have ad agencies that are running hundreds of projects a week, and they're creating ads for marketing campaigns. So they're in there literally every minute of the day cranking stuff out. So this allowed us to kind of segment our customers to say, we want them logging in at least weekly to be updating their work. But not necessarily, a lot of our people are gonna get the value getting in there daily, but the agricultural company, if we set our threshold at daily, they would never be healthy, right? Because that's not how they use our tool. We then assign a health just for frequency. So here we want, like I said, our users logging in at least weekly. So to be healthy, we want at least 50% of the users logging in weekly. So this is, again, out of everybody that's logging in, how often are they logging in? And then we assign a healthy, an average, and a poor value just for that. And then you guys guessed it, we combine it all together to create a BDF score. So right here, a healthy customer in terms of BDF looks like this. It means that they have at least 60% of their users logging in, they're accessing at least 6 or 7 of the core features, and at least 50% of those users are logging in weekly. And this is data that we push into Totango, and it rolls, it updates every single night. and it pushes, right? So we can define a healthy, an average, and then a poor in one score. So as you can see, they're all in depth, but you can come in and you can see just in one very quick snapshot, they're average, and then it's because of one of these 3 reasons. Okay, so I showed you what the calculation is, what BDF is, a little bit about our health. So let's look at how we use it and how I operationalize the data. Obviously, we put it into Totango. So this is a screenshot of just a header of one of our pages into Totango. And you can see right here at the bottom of it, we have the points for the BDF, and then for each B, D, and F. So if I'm a CSM, I can get in here and I can say, oh, this account in Totango, their BDF is a 2.6. I don't really know what that means, but I know it's out of 3. Like, the CSM doesn't have to know what that means, but they can then look right over here and say their depth is 3, their frequency is 3, but their breadth is 2. So I know that they're good on depth and frequency, but their breadth is lower. I need to do something about that piece. It allows them to just have a targeted conversation with the customer without having to be really analytical. On top of showing the points, we also show what the actual value is. So right here you can see in our value metrics, we have the breadth. So on top of saying your breadth was healthy or your breadth was average, here's what the actual calculation is. So breadth, 75% of their users have logged in the last 30 days. And like with any metric, you can see the trend line in Totango. Then we show these are our 7 metrics that we chose for depth. So you can see this is just a screenshot of down in the information tab in Totango, where you can see how many of the users accessed the document in the last 30 days, 69.06% of the users. And these update, like I said, every single night. And it just allows me as a CSM to go in and see which area of the tool are they doing really good in, are there a lot of their users using, and which area are they not. Same thing with frequency. We show the actual percentage there of how many users are logging in daily, weekly, or monthly. And you can see that trend line of those graphs, so that way you can compare the customer to themselves. We also assign a task. So we have a success play that is a drop in usage. So this one just looks at breadth, but this is just saying, hey, that customer, a notification to the CSM saying that this account has dropped usage by at least 10% in the last 30 days. Please investigate and take action if necessary. So this one was really key for us, and this came later. We didn't put this in right as we rolled out this, but this is important because an account can drop 10% usage, but still not jump from green to yellow or yellow to red, right? Well, they would go yellow to red, but they wouldn't go green to yellow. They could be really, really healthy, and 90% of their users are completing tasks every single day, 90%, 90%, and then all of a sudden they drop to 80%. Which 80% is still healthy, right? But why the drop? So we have this success play that pops up for the CSM. It just allows them to have a conversation with the customer to say, hey, you guys dropped. Is it seasonality? Is it Christmas time, right? Is it that you guys are shifting priorities? Is it what's going on? It just allows for a more in-depth conversation with the customer. And on top of Totango, we've made the data available for our entire company. So not all of our company is in Totango, so we push data outwards. So for example, we push data into Workfront, our own tool, and this primarily is for our professional services team. When they are working with a customer to enhance their product, whatever new service that they're working with their customer, they want to be able to have that conversation right up front and not have to say, hey customer, so tell me about how you use Workfront. They can already see that in their tool to say, okay, you're using it healthy in this way and not so healthy in this way, so let's work on this area to help you improve. We also pipe the data back to Salesforce. So using the native integrations between Totango and Salesforce that they have, we push the data back there so that our sales team can see it. So then whenever they're talking to their customers, they can just very easily see, is this customer red, yellow, or green? And then look into the in-depth information right there. We also use Tableau, so that is our software that we use for reporting. So when we rolled this out about over a year ago now, we created reports in Tableau that go to our entire executive leadership team. So we have reports that just aggregate all of this data together, and it is a metric that our entire company knows. Our CEO says if you don't know what BDF is, then like don't even talk to the customer, right? You need to understand why are they using the tool before you go talk to them. It allows your entire company to be knowledgeable and understand how they're using it without being creepy, right? You're not seeing this user to click this one thing at this 1 second, right? It's just an overarching view to say this account as a whole is using it like this. And then of course Totango. Like I showed you guys all the things that we use, but we also have Zoe. And so we used Zoe, and it was really beneficial for us at our user conference. So just like this, whenever people were coming in to talk to anybody in the company, they could quickly type Zoe, look at the customer and see that are they using it healthy or not. And it just adds that extra level to say, oh, I know you, right? It allows you to be more personalized without having to do a ton of research about the customer. Okay. So I've shown you the metrics, I've shown you what it looks like, so let's walk through a customer example together. Let me check my time, okay. So let's say that we have a customer, fake customer Sterling Cooper. We log into Totango and the health is average, and it tells us that it's average because the BDF points is average. So then I can look at what is my B, my D, and my F. I can see I color-coded it, so it was easy for you guys to figure out which one is making it yellow. Breadth is green, frequency is green, and depth is yellow. So this tells me very quickly as a CSM, okay, I need to look into depth. I need to go see what's going on because this is my flag right here. So then I go look at my 7 depth metrics. So if you were a CSM and you were looking at this account and these metrics, what's your guys' conclusions? Yeah, right? We've got something really wrong right here. And dashboards. So, okay, so what do I do with that? Yeah. It allows me to go have that conversation with the CS or with my customer to say, hey, what's going on? I know that you're not really accessing reports, and same with dashboards, which makes sense. They go together. Reports make up dashboards, so if you're not viewing one, that makes sense. But it allows you to have that conversation to say, what are you doing? And then the customer can say, oh, I never looked at that area. And then boom, that allows for a big opportunity for me to say, hey, let me send you all of this training material on how to access reports. And let's create a dashboard to show your executives what your team's doing and drive that value even more, right? And just broaden that. What if they come back and they say, oh yeah, I just don't like the way you guys do reports? How does that benefit me as a CSM? Yeah. Yeah. She said you have the opportunity to ask why, which is so true. It allows you to understand why, see what's wrong with it, and then you have a better understanding to either say, okay, so they don't like it because they pipe other data out and they also do their reporting in Tableau. So then that's something that somebody can raise a flag and come to me and say, maybe we need to look at how many of our customers are integrating with our data and using APIs to pull that data out. Do we need to include that in our BDF? Or do we need to go to product team and say, hey, product team, we have all of these customers that are not healthy. You said this is where they're going to get the most value out of Workfront, but they don't like this one tool and nobody likes it, so everybody's unhealthy, right? It just is an ever-changing game. It allows you to have that conversation with your product team and with your customer to understand what's going on. Okay, so we went through a customer example, so I just want to talk about some steps, some tips, some tricks and advice that I have for you guys if anybody is looking to go down this path right here. So my number one advice and the biggest one is to start small. It's so easy to say, what if, right? What if we can measure this and that and all of it and just give me it all and then predict the future, right? It's so easy to dream big. And it's good to do that. It's good to get people in the room to do that, but then you have to say, okay, but what's our MVP? What do we want to measure first? And for us, what that looked like was measuring just Workfront. So I've been talking about Workfront, but we actually have 4 products. We only look at BDF on the one product for right now because we were like, we can't start and do all 4 of them and say this and this and this. You have to start small. Next, I want to suggest is getting a cross-functional team to identify the key areas of the product. So this, for us, looked like we got together with people from every single department because we all use our own tool and we use it differently. So finance, what brings you value out of the tool? Product, what do you think is valuable? Marketing, how do you use it? And we just compiled lists of what was the most important, and then we sat down as the core group to say, okay, so they like this piece, they like that piece, what's the most valuable? And you work with that. So my core group was me, a CX analyst, we had a project manager in product, and then we also had our BI engineer, or business intelligence engineer. So he was in there to make sure that the data was flowing and all the calculations behind the scene were working, and then we created it. And then build reports. So this one is really important too. I kind of mentioned our Tableau reports, but we also have reports within Totango that allows the CSM to look at theirs. This is important to say, just to track change, right? You have to draw a line in the sand. You have to be able to say, here's where we started with our BDF, our product usage, whatever slice you guys decide to make, and then say, what does that change look like, and iterate as you go. And then enhance BDF metrics as you grow. So this is the stage that we're at right now. We've done those three and we're in enhancing mode. So for us, what this looks like is creating BDF based on industry and on segment. We know that our larger customers use our product differently, but our larger customers in this industry use it differently. So then that way you can get really nerdy behind the scenes and create segmentation and different analytics and different scores, but then it all bubbles up to just be red, yellow, green for your CSMs. So it's been really successful for us, for our CSMs, to have those more strategic conversations without having to really be data-driven or understand it, because they are being data-driven because we're making it appear in a way that is usable. And then I just want to leave you guys with this quote, which says, measurement is the first step that leads to control and eventually to improvement. So I just want to really recommend that you guys start somewhere. Start measuring your customers, start looking at what they're doing, and it just allows you to really enhance your health and understanding of how they use your tool. So now we'll take questions.
I'm sure y'all have a lot of fun with the acronym BFD and BDF. I'm curious, it sounds to me like you make that calculation outside of Totango, if I heard you correctly, and I'm curious how that decision was made versus doing it as a custom metric or within the health designer and things like that.
So it's actually both. Some of it's outside and some of it is inside of Totango. So we pull our product usage data into a database, and then we do some of the just aggregations together because we don't look at it on a per user level. We look at it just as an account level. So we kind of just do the aggregations together, and then we push it in, and then we do the calculations as custom metrics into Totango. And then you calculate it into health, and like we have 9 different health profiles that just segment depending.
Hey, so 2-part question for you. The first part of the question is, it seems like there was a lot of care and thought and a large process that went into the BDF score. So my question is, why is BDF only accounting for 1/6 of the health when it's such a rich and deep metric that gives you like insight on product stickiness and that kind of thing? And then the second question was, depth is also fantastic in of itself. So what are you doing in terms of building out priority on the depth list of, okay, this feature tends to be the most sticky out of the 7 features that we're taking a look at, or this specific action was the most retention generating action out of all the actions that our customers do?
Yeah, so it is only 1/6 right now because when we rolled it out, like I said, we were just drawing a line in the sand. So we were not being super predictive to say, oh, we know if 93% of their users are creating a project, they're going to renew and their rate will be 103%. We just didn't have the data to be that predictive. And so we were like, let's just get it in there. Whether it's super predictive right now or not, let's just get it in there. So we put it in, and right now, like I said, we rolled this out in Q2 2018, so we have a little over a year's worth of data now. And that means that every single one of our customers has had a renewal date. So right now we're currently in the phase of let's look and see, was it actually predictive? Looking at just BDF alone, right? So only 1/6, ignoring everything else, but looking at that alone, do we need to tweak that, or are we pretty spot on? So like you said, we want it to be more. We just didn't want to have a bunch of fake red accounts if they weren't necessarily. It was based on, this is what we think it is right now, but we're going to do a more in-depth of to be predictive. Did that hit both questions?
The second question was about stickiness in terms of the depth.
Yes, so depth is the piece that it has 7 metrics, but again, it can have many. So that's one that we look at in terms of when we're trying to look at all 4 of our different products. So right now we want to look at, was it actually these 7 metrics? Was it this one that made it more? So those are the ones that we're really looking at when we're doing our predictive modeling. And then if they have this other tool, if we pull that in and throw that in as a depth metric. So we're looking at that way instead of creating many different BDF metrics for all of our different products, of just throwing them into depth. So.
You mentioned that this is 16% of the score. A technical question. In Totango, you define if one parameter, then it becomes red. If all, then it's green. So how did you set it up?
Yeah, so it's just the BDF score is at 1/6 of it, right? So Totango is all or none. But if we look at just that's why we have the 4 different metrics, because then that way we can say we want depth to be, when we combine BDF, depth is more important than B and D.
No, I'm
so
speaking on the higher level. Okay, so you got the BDF score, and then you mentioned it 16% of what? Of the total
No,
health score?
1/6%. So just that chart that I showed that said our health is made up of sponsor, renewal date, and BDF. So it is just like any health calculation of Totango, that if this one section is red and everything else is green, it'll turn red.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's the same it's the same calculation that Totango uses.
Thank you, that was great. Beyond refining the scores that you already have in place and tweaking the percentages, how are you thinking about evolving your health scoring strategy? Journey, phase specific, segment specific, whatever that might look like. Yeah,
so our biggest one right now is just changing to be industry specific, and we're reevaluating our CSM model right now, because like I said, we only are serving our top 500 customers. So we're trying to look at how do we determine health for our customers that aren't necessarily having those EBRs or those cadence calls or anything like that, because they don't have a CSM. So that's what our health looks like right now, but we're trying to transition so it's an equal playing field, because for our customers without a CSM, their health is based on completely BDF, because they don't have any of those other attributes that we're looking at. So we're trying to figure out how we need to segment. That's our biggest next action, of not necessarily reevaluating our entire health, because it's working really well for us, but being able to say, we know that what does good look like for our ad agencies, because we have so many specific use cases of people that use our tool.
You mentioned you have 4 products, and only the Workfront one is the one you focused on right now. Mm-hmm. Are the other 3 products in Totango at all?
Yeah, they're all in there.
So how is their health score derived?
So it's pretty basic depending, and there's some of our products, there's only one product that is a different standalone. So majority of our customers have Workfront. There's another one that they can have just that and not Workfront, but the other 2, they would have Workfront and Fusion or Workfront and Library. So they would have both of them. So they still pipe in there, and so their health calculation, if they have Workfront, is still the same general one, but we know that there's X number of licenses that they're using for this other tool that we're just kind of not looking at right now. And those are all fairly new products, so we're behind the game on that, but we're not super far behind the game on it because they are fairly new. We don't know what good looks like for it yet.
Thank you so much for sharing how you guys are doing the health score. I'm just actually curious about how, I guess, implementation is already done, and now what is your team that supports Totango? Because you also mentioned you're the Totango admin.
Here
so I'm just wondering, because we're still in the onboarding phase, and just trying to understand what it takes to continue the enhancement and driving adoption of Totango within the team. So
So we're pretty unique in that we do not have an adoption problem of Totango. I am the Totango support. It is just me, and that is not my primary function. I would say Totango admin is probably like 15% of my job. So it's not much, which has its pitfalls, right? Because we are in that stage that we have had major success in the last year of calculating health, and now we're like, okay, what's next? Like, how do we improve Totango? How do we give more visibility to the entire team? How do we segment better? How do we do all of this and really take that Totango to the next level? So that is a challenge because it is just me doing that. But in terms of adoption, we do not have that problem at all. Like, not that this ever happens, but whenever Totango goes down, like, my team knows. Like, they know before Totango has their help site like updated because they're in there all the time. We actually have weekly risk review meetings, and it's with my CCO, and she gets on, and then all of the CSMs, the teams get on individually, and like the managers are on the whole time, but the teams get on, and they bubble up the ones that they need. So we have a risk review touch point in Totango that they have to update every single week to say if this customer is really at risk, like what is the update, what's the reason, and what are you doing to make it healthy? And then we have a weekly meeting to review it. And it starts from the top, right? Because if my CSMs go to that meeting, they're like, oh yeah, this customer said this, they're actually really healthy, and then they're just gonna grow. My CCO will be like, okay, well, Totango shows them as red and you're forecasting them as a downsell, so update that. So it's just trained my CSMs that they need to keep that updated, because if not, they're gonna have people slacking them and emailing them. Like one of our core values is obsessed over customers, and that is true to all of our leadership. They're very hands-on, and Totango is the place that they go get their updates. So it saves the CSM's time. So I would say that training the external people to go look at the one place saves the CSM from having to answer the same question a million times.
Unfortunately, we run out of time, so thank you very much, Rachel. And if you have any more questions for Rachel or for any of us, just let us know. Thank you very much.